Commissioner Gillette. Here. Commissioner Kelly. Here. Commissioner Powers. Commissioner Walker. Here. Commissioner Morris. Here. Commissioner Jacks.
Here.
Commissioner Abbott.
Here.
Commissioner Martin. Commissioner Alexander.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I believe we're going to have an automated announcement right now. Good.
Anyone who has not signed in, please do so at the table located in the lobby. Should anyone wish to speak, please complete a request to speak form, which is also located on the lobby table next to the sign-in sheet. A request to speak form must be completed for each item you would like to speak on. Please note, there are stairs on the right, left, and center aisles, and we ask that you use caution when using the stairs. There is also a ramp located to the audience's left. If anyone has written comments, exhibits, petitions, photos, or letters they intend to present at today's meeting, have 17 copies and give them to a staff member at the back of the auditorium. Staff member, please hold up your hand for the audience. If you do not have 17 copies, you may use the overhead camera to present your documents. Please place your documents on the podium and line it up with the arrows indicated. If you want your documentation to go on record, you must hand them to the clerk after your presentation with the agenda item number clearly marked on the documentation. Members of the public cannot speak to staff members that are seated at the tables with microphones during the meeting. If you have questions, please see the staff member located in the back of the auditorium. All speakers will be limited to 2 minutes to make their presentation statements. Everyone, please turn off all cell phones or place them on vibrate during the meeting. If you must take a call, please leave the meeting area and go outside to have your conversation. We also ask the audience to refrain from talking with one another during the presentations and discussions. Today, the Planning and Zoning Commission will hear public testimony and then forward a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. Everyone attending the meeting is asked to remember that the administrative building and campus are tobacco-free areas, which means no smoking is allowed from curb to curb. No food or drinks are allowed in the auditorium except for bottled water. If there are any items remaining on the agenda, the Commission will break for lunch for 1 hour per the Chairman's discretion.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of December 11th?
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. A motion by Commissioner Jackson, a second by Commissioner Alexander. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Call to the public. Is there anybody that would like to talk?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Jem Morgan. I am a Kingman resident and District 1 constituent. I'm actually addressing Mr. Kelly, who has stepped out, and Mr. Meal. The three of you sat there talking with your little political partisan Democrat, anti-Democrat jokes. What I heard Mr. Dale Kelly say was that's why Democrats are able to come and protest because they don't have day jobs. I take great umbrage for that. I will tell this committee, this commission, that I am here today, that I'm able to come and call Luana Jett to accountability because I am a service-connected, disabled United States veteran. I am here before I drive to Prescott for my treatment for my service-connected disability. I take serious umbrage with this commission sitting here making partisan rhetoric jokes. about such things. This is supposed to be a commission that represents every single constituent in this county. I served to fight for the freedom for every single American, not just the white people, not just the Christian people, not just the people who have beliefs that are the same as mine. And for Luana Gillette to be sitting on this commission with her racist and xenophobic beliefs that she falsely represented when she applied and signed the Code of Ethics for this commission. The governor, on December 11th, on the day when I was last here at this commission meeting, the governor of this state publicly denounced Luana Gillette. He rejected her views. In fact, his office made a statement that Luana Gillette's racist and xenophobic Facebook rants are exactly the example of why we need an urgent legislative reform so that we can get people like her with her views and her beliefs that are antithetical to Arizona value and beliefs off of appointed commissions when there is specific legislation that prohibits it. Mojave County does not have such legislation. Ron Gould could remove her from this commission at any time. If the governor of this state, who is one of the most conservative governors that we have, can understand that racism and xenophobia is a nonpartisan issue, then this county should be able to make that same decision. I am here again to call into the record that Luana Gillette has no business to be on this commission, and Mr. Kelly has no business, or the three of them, to sit there and make rhetoric, partisan political rhetoric comments prior to an official government commission meeting. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to address the public? Thank you. We'll close the public input. Let's see, item number 1.
Yes, item number 1 is an evaluation of a request for a rezone of assessor parcel numbers 221-22001 and 221-25006 from an RE residential recreation zone to a CRE commercial recreation zone to allow for ATV rentals, zip line, and associated commercial stores in the Oatman vicinity. Staff has recently just received one item or one email in approval of this project. And I believe that was dispersed to you just now as well. Staff is recommending approval with one additional condition. Condition number 2, that the parcels being rezoned are occupying the same parcel as assessor parcel numbers 221-23001 through 013 and 221-23018, 019, 020. All parcels need to be combined with the Mojave County Assessor's Office. Right now it's kind of, if you look on the GIS, there were lots of mining parcels that share the same parcel as the ones that we are applying for. But what we're requesting, if this gets approved, that those parcels all combine into the parcels that are currently there, so we don't have any issues. Thank you.
May I get clarification on that? Is that by joining the parcels via the assessor's office or a parcel plat?
Just with the assessor's office.
Thank you. Maybe is the applicant available? Would he like to speak? Please state your name and address.
Good morning. My name's Tim McCarthy. I live on number 53, Road 2896, Aztec, New Mexico. And I'm here representing my project today. I'm bringing to Mojave County a plan to come in with something that we don't have in this area that'll capture a few more of the tourist ratio. I'm looking at putting in a small western town with horseback rides. We're coming in with the horseback rides. We're actually putting in a little zip line. We'll have a petting zoo. Various activities that come with that. We're looking at putting in a little mining museum and a reptile exhibit, and possibly a restaurant. But the biggest factor about this right here that I'm seeing that we're bringing to the table is what we're bringing to the community. We're going to be able to work with the county As far as bringing some jobs, we will make this project ADA accessible. Now, where I'm at right now, I've been through Oatman the last few times. I'm just looking at stuff, and there's not really anything that is ADA accessible in Oatman, Arizona. And that's not to their fault. I don't think it's because of the layout of the town, the infrastructure. There's not really a lot of room left for those guys to move around, and to take away the natural history on those buildings is quite a change. I think everybody understands that. Granted, something could have been done, but hasn't. I'm coming in ADA accessible. I'm also looking at bringing jobs. I'm looking at bringing taxes. I'm having a clean industry. And I'm looking at bringing adequate parking. Adequate parking would mean we would be able to park down there and still be able to move on to up to Oatman. What we're looking at is maybe possibly, if we're working with the town of Oatman, we'd like to go ahead and run a shuttle bus up to them. But the idea right now is I went into Oatman the other day and I paid $2 to park. And it was at the far end of town, and I did see some disabled people that had some issues, and it wasn't addressed. Moving on to my project, I think I can work really well with the local schools and rest homes. I think field trips are going to be really neat coming to this project. I have some historic locations on my property and adjacent to my property. I did one similar to this in Durango, Colorado with the man that owns a Sleeping Beauty turquoise mine. And we did rather well up there. It's called the Sleeping Beauty Ranch. And we did a lot of community activities. Most of the schools from Durango, Colorado came out there and did their school visits and their field trips. But we're offering a chance for these kids to come out here and actually see farm animals, pet farm animals, come out and actually see the mining. We're on an actual mine. We're crushing rock. We're going to use that for out of the mine dump for our gold panning. These kids will actually get to see the history of the area. They'll get to see the old hospital that's across on the east side of this property, across the highway. And then on the other side, it's the infamous 49 camp. White slavery trial was held in Prescott over 1917 for that famous property where they're importing girls from California. I mean, there's a lot of history. At the same time, this could be used as a learning criteria for people going back over Site Graves Pass, learning a lot about discrimination that we had back then, about the people that came in through the Dust Bowl, and just because they were poor, they got discriminated against. I mean, they weren't offered a lot of stuff. So this is how this area got built, and a lot of that stuff, it's really neat history, and it's stuff that could be a living history type deal. As far as the petting zoo, I've arranged that similar to I had in Durango, Colorado. We do that on donations only. We're looking at Asians, Europeans coming through, and actually looking for the Western experience. I'd like to provide that. That would come with the animals that we have there. We're bringing longhorn cattle in with big horns, stuff that the West was made with. And with this, we're setting up donation box. This will be a donation-only petting zoo. Every 3 months, 4 times a year, we will draw out of a hat for the local charities. See who gets that donation pot. So we're giving back to the local charities. We're supplying a place for students to come learn and actually feel the Old West. I work with a friend of mine, owns the Bar D Chuck Wagon in Durango, Colorado. It's a real famous place, a Western stage show. And we're both identifying the loss of the tourism, and the same way with Al Harper, who owns the Durango Silverton train. We're losing contact as the generations change. People aren't interested in this, and we've got to reel them back in. We've got a great tourist base over here, and if we're making this something interactive with these kids, everybody's got a happy place that they went when they were a kid. They remember that. Well, I want kids to be able to come up here and make their own ice cream. I want them to be able to pan their own gold. I want these kids in the schools to know exactly what it was like to be here. And I think we can present that with this project. So, closing, I really appreciate your vote in on this. I think we're bringing a great project. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Has the commission got any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair.
Sir.
Have one question for you.
Yes, sir.
Will you have ATV rentals And if so, how do you see that in conjunction with the environment?
Thank you for asking that. I reached out to, I did put the ATV rentals on my application, and I was instructed, I can't remember who told me this, but when I applied for this zoning change, I was instructed to go ahead and put everything that we might want in the future. Now, I put ATV rentals races on there, razors actually, is what it was, OHVs. Well, I reached out, after I heard some comments on this, I reached out to some friends in Silverton, Colorado. They had OHVs come in there. And to be honest with you, I would not run OHVs unless they were guided tours. The people in Silverton, Colorado have paid the price for what they've reaped in the revenues and the tax base. They paid the price on that mountain as far as their Forest Service, their elk counts, their bird counts, ptarmigan and grouse, et cetera. Everything's been disturbed by these, and it's not just because of the rentals, but it's the other people coming in. But I honestly, I won't blame the all OHVs or anything like that, but we all know there's going to be one or two renegades. I would feel the same way after talking to them about renting those out like a non-guided horseback tour.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the applicant. Maybe I missed it. Where's your residence now?
My residence is in Aztec, New Mexico.
Is where?
In Aztec, New Mexico. It's the Four Corners. So I'm up
I know
in
where that is, yeah.
Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, Colorado.
Plan on moving here?
Yes, sir, I do. As soon as I get this project through. My mother lives in Bullhead, Arizona, and that's kind of what I office out of right now. But this project has brought me a lot closer. I've been on this project. We had some family problems. I've been on this project for 2 years. I will have title back on this property tomorrow afternoon. We'll be closing on it. And it was a really good deal that I finally got back into it. But what I'm looking at, I really want to bring something clean and something supportive to the community. I want to work with Oatman. I honestly see a vision where we could actually run shuttles up there, and everybody says, well, they're going to stop there. Oatman is a destination town. People come for the historicness and the donkeys, the burros, whatever you want to call them. And the idea, that's like putting a gift shop in before the Grand Canyon. People might stop at that gift shop, but they still go see the Grand Canyon. People might stop and try to do this zip line and do some gold panning, pet the animals or something like that. They're still going to go to Oatman and walk the streets and enjoy the burros.
Thank you. You answered my question.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Where does, I noticed there's water, electric, will there be a need for sewers?
Yes, ma'am. And I've talked with Mr. Cullum at the division here I can't remember I think it's sanitation or the resources here. And he did advise me that I would be allowed to get a septic system in there. And the water is, I just found out the other day, when I pulled it down online, I thought you could buy 4-inch taps and I'd be fine. I found out I do only have a 1-inch water line available, so I will have to come in with a water well. I see that, but I did get bids. I secured bids from local drillers over here in Kingman before I started this project, or when I first started this project, and they were solid bids and they were fair prices. We could afford it. We could justify coming in with our own water. So.
What do you mean by solid bid?
Pardon me?
What do you mean by solid bid for a well?
Everybody was pretty close to the same price. It looked like between the drilling and the pump installation, it was going to be close to $15,000. And that's
experience with wells, there is no bid. It's so much per foot.
Yes, sir. That's what they did. They just estimated for that area on wells that they drilled over there.
Thank you. Yes.
So will septic be sufficient for the amount of traffic you anticipate in having there?
Yes, ma'am. It will be an engineered system, and it will be decided similar to what they do with the seating at a restaurant, anything like that. Will be actually required by the county. By Cullum, he told me I would have to stay within these regulations. And he's offered me some different options to put this and to work this out. He's explained it really well. I got to be honest with you right now. everybody on this planning department, this whole staff, and everybody in your county that I reached out to has been awesome. They appreciated the fact that, number one, they were here to get a job done. Number two, they were here to help an applicant as far as they could do, as far as they could get it to succeed. This was a clean project, and I believe that these guys actually recommend the approval of it. But you guys have got a really good staff, and they're looking out for your community and your interests.
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I was noticing that Oatman Highway runs down the middle of these parcels.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to have activities on both sides of the highway? And if so, how are you going to address the crossing of the highway?
Yes, ma'am. I'm looking at having activities, but right now we're addressing working on the west side is what we'll be developing right off. And I did discuss that with on a pre-app 2 years ago on this project when I still had a member of my family involved with it. And we did discuss crossing the highway. And they really didn't want to see it, but it slowed. It actually between the firehouse and coming through there, I believe it's 45 miles an hour. And if we did have to, it would be just turning in and out. I don't see anything else crossing. If we did anything on the other side of the road, it would be parking over there. We'd have to come off that side of the road and park.
So the activities will be basically on one side?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions by the commission? Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you guys for serving.
We have a number of people requested to speak. Kathleen Jenkins.
Thank you. So I'm the fire chief in the Oatman area.
Would you please state your name and address, please?
Sure, Kathleen Jenkins, 75 Quail Road, Oatman, Arizona. So I'm a fire chief in Oatman, and I've sat and talked with him a couple different times on this project, and I do have some concerns that I brought to him. One of the concerns is if we do have ATV rentals that are used out there, the fire department currently does not have the infrastructure to be able to respond should they be way back in the desert. If we're looking 4 to 6 miles out off of Highway 66, none of our vehicles are going to be back there because of the terrain that is there. We've also talked about the crossing of the road as well. As you know, that highway, nobody does a speed limit there. Right where he's looking at, it's 30 miles an hour. And we quite often see people going 45, 50, 55. So that's one of our concerns as well. When I talked to Mr. Tim on this, I told him, I said, what we need is quality over quantity. And we need to make sure that if the project does go through, that we're able to support everything and everyone that's there. Another issue we have is the water, which he just addressed. The water company, I do not think can handle that. If he's putting his own well in, that is a good thing, and he'll be able to do that as well. With the horses that he's looking at doing the guided tours on, we need to make sure that we have proper staffing for them, that we have a place for them to get in and out of the weather, and to make sure that if they are used during the summer months, that they're able to be rotated out so that the same horse isn't running all day. Another thing that we need to do is make sure that right now the community is very divided on this project because of the way that some of the services are being duplicated down there. And I think the biggest thing prior to approval to this is to make sure that we can all get along up there, because right now as the fire department, we don't have everything in place that we're going to need. And the same thing with the community. It's going to be a rhetoric that goes back and forth because they can't get along on what's going on. So I realize that's not a legal issue for him not to get granted, but I think there's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done. We did have a meeting set up that was canceled by Mr. McCarthy due to some comments that were on social media. And I think that a lot of the community members that have issues on it, they have valid issues. I told Mr. McCarthy, should some of these concerns that we have be addressed, that we would 100% support him, but we need to make sure that everybody's on board and that everybody's getting the same support.
Thank you. Gary Messer? The restroom. Okay, Michael Buck?
Michael Buck, 1627 Topak, Arizona. Everything he says we have in Oatman. He's already listed what he's gonna do with the stores and it's gonna be the same stuff in Oatman. 99% of our traffic is gonna come from that end of town, and we'll end up going into there and maybe not even making it to Oatman, because you're gonna have your burros and everything there, and that's what the people come up to see. He's talking about old-time photos. We got old-time photo shop, gold panning. We got gold panning. And you know, him doing rock shops and selling jewelry and this and that. It's all in Oatman already. We do have kids that come to Oatman, schools. Don't want to lose the historic of the around Oatman. What else here? It's just, and we've been getting along with handicapped people for a long time, for 100 years already in Oatman. They haven't had no problems. We find places that they can park. It's gonna hurt Oatman business-wise. I'm part of the Oatman Chamber, but I'm not here for the chamber. I'm here as a business owner. And stores already this year in Oatman have been on a decline. The people are coming in, just not spending a lot. And throwing something like that on top of it, it's gonna kill the town. So, and the tour buses, you know, if they stop, the tour buses are only there for an hour or so when they come to our town. Now, if they start coming into his town, they're not gonna spend time there and then go unload 3/4 of a mile down the road again. And the chamber, the historical society all makes so much money per bus that comes in, that goes to maintenance on the bathrooms and things like that. We'll lose all that. So it's gonna hurt Oatman. And that's it.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. We'll go back to Gary Minzer.
Hi, my name is Gary Minzer. I'm a Havasu resident. I'm not a resident of Oatman or a business owner of Oatman. However, I'm a field tech, and I cover the tri-state area. And when I get up in Bullhead and I run out of calls, I go up and I hang out in Oatman. I love the little town. I like the boroughs. I like the people. Oatman is a great little town the way that it is. It hurts to think that somebody comes to Oatman and somebody's going to come in with a bunch of money and try and recreate Oatman before Oatman to catch all the people. If you look at the picture, it goes all the way across. Across the highway, and one of the issues was stopping the burros there. And then it turned into, well, we're going to fence the entire area and have cattle guards. I'm not seeing how it won't affect Oatman. The tour buses. You know, the tour buses do come to Oatman. People get out. They don't have a whole lot of time to check out Oatman and to pet the burros and hang out. I know because I talk to them all the time. You know, I always see people, they always ask me questions about the burros. You know, I talk to them about them. And if the new recreated town of Oatman, you know, catches all the burros and all the people, what's going to happen to Oatman? You know, and they do have everything up there. The only thing that Oatman doesn't have that this proposal would be is ATV rental, longhorn cattle. There was one other thing, I don't remember. Oh, a petting zoo, but they already have that with the burros. So, in my opinion, I think it's a horrible idea for the town of Oatman, and this is coming from somebody that loves Oatman and is an outsider. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Lowry.
Good morning. My name is Robert Lowry. I live at 91 Main Street, Oatman, Arizona. I'm actually 24 years old. I'm a college student. My parents actually own the business of New Diggins. Therefore, that actually helps me pay for school as well as go to school and continue my career goals. With that being said, this plan on Oatman is actually insufficient. When we have problems with the burrows that are protected by the BLM, it takes about an hour to 2 hours to beg a veterinarian to get up there to help us. When a donkey gets hit by a car, that is traumental. That is very traumatic as far as that experience. And if you guys are there, you guys would understand. We get calls at 12 o'clock at night as far as somebody got hit by a donkey. A car got hit by a donkey. We have to put it down. We have to call the BLM. The BLM has to pay a certain amount for a veterinarian to get up there. Now, my question as far as that goes is that if he has horses, petting zoos, things of that sort, how is he going to get the ethical care for those animals? And I'm sorry, I am very biased on this because I am actually a pre-veterinarian major. I do live and love and care for animals to the max extent. Just yesterday, we had a baby donkey choking on hay. We had to shove a garden hose down its mouth to be able to resuscitate that donkey. Now, if this gentleman were there, he would understand. Now, as far as that goes, the ADA standards of that town, we have had to try to get that rezoned many times. We do have ADA standards. With that being said, we have ramps that access shops. We have them that access restaurants. Yes, we have steps, but at the same time, the parking lots on that town are owned by people's personal property, so they have every right to charge him $2. But if he went not even a quarter mile down the town, he would have saw a completely free parking lot. But with that being said, I am 24 years old. I like to see what my parents saw when they were growing up. And yet, I live at a community where there's nothing but historical buildings. So with that being said, I would love Oatman to stay the way it is, just for the historic value. Thank you.
Thank you. Bobby Mersick.
Good morning. My name is Bobby Mersick. I live at 4474 East Catlin in Fort Mojave, Arizona. I am a business owner in Oatman and a stakeholder who would be directly
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Can you talk a little closer into the phone and move it up?
Sorry about that. I am a business owner in Oatman and a stakeholder who would be directly impacted by the proposed business plan associated with the rezoning of the property in question, such as gold panning, which I do at my shop. I believe in the rezoning will affect the business owners who have been in Oatman for decades. These businesses have worked very hard for many years to make Oatman what it is today. Mr. McCarthy will be offering the same amenities, products, and activities that already exist in Oatman. All these things will be affected in affecting the prosperity of Oatman, and I would like to vote against the rezoning of this property. We also have petitions that said something about 17 copies. We don't have 17 copies, so I don't know if you guys could do the camera up top. Is that something we could do? Okay. So these are all signed, people who have signed the petition against the rezoning. And there is one more here. And also on the back page of that. So we have about 25 petitions there against the rezoning. So we would like to thank you guys very much for letting us speak. And like I says, a lot of us in town have mixed emotions, and this will actually probably bring a lot of separation between the community as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Would you please submit your petitions to Cindy at the end down there?
I have a question.
Sir.
Sir? Yes. That the people who signed the petition, are they all business owners?
Yes, they are all business owners, or they live directly in Oatman.
How many active that
I'm not sure on the exact number on that, sir. 24? 24.
All the people who are business owners signed the petition.
Not every one of them. There are some that are for the rezoning, but I would say about 3/4 of them are against it. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question to staff. Do we have any statistics on written objections with regard to our statutory limits?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is the first time that we've heard any of the objections. We would have to sit down and do some research with that petition, as well as those that spoke today, to see if they're within the 300-foot radius of these properties. If more than 20% of the property owners within 300 feet of this parcel, of these parcels, object, then it would force a 3/4 vote with the Board of Supervisors.
And that would be taken
But
up
yeah,
at
it
that
wouldn't,
point.
it wouldn't affect this commission, so we would have
Thank you.
that for the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Do I have any questions? Yes.
I recommend we put this on hold until staff does their due diligence.
I would agree.
Okay, is that?
Agree.
In that form of a motion?
Yes.
Okay, we have
Chairman,
a second by, yes.
if I may get a little clarification on what that due diligence the commission's looking for. As far as the objections, once we've received those objections, we would provide that calculation to the Board of Supervisors. However, those objections would have no bearing on what type of recommendation, as far as how many commissioners would need to recommend one way or the other towards the board. So the commission could still make a recommendation, irregardless of how many oppositions, what percentage of opposition there is.
Yes, I understand that.
I have a comment. From what I've heard, my reason for saying yes to the motion was made is, it just sounds like, Oatman is a very unique place, known all over the world. And before we go making the kind of changes that the people are saying they think it's going to affect Oatman, I think it needs a lot more investigation. From who and how, I'm not sure. But I just think it needs more than what the gentleman comes in here. It sounds good if Oatman didn't exist, but Oatman is there and it exists. So that's my reason for voting to that recommendation, or if we voted, I don't know if we have or not. But anyway, that's what I have to say about it.
Mr. Meal?
With staff, isn't there a process that has to go through before it's approved or disapproved?
Chairman Moore.
Especially since you've got all the signed affidavits.
Chairman Morse, Commissioner Mill, it does go through the process. It's a rezone process, and it has gone through that process, and that's how it's been. That's why it's before you today. Is we posted the property, and
I'm not doubting your word, but if it's already gone through the process, why hasn't the other part of your staff heard about it?
we haven't heard the opposition, but that's only because that opposition has not been presented to us. We can only see what is submitted to us.
And is that not part of the process?
This meeting is part of that process. They're invited to this meeting they can either mail in, email, notify us directly of that opposition, then we present that to the commission, or they're invited to come to this meeting to share that opposition to the commission as well. So it has gone through staff's process, and I guess that's kind of my concern as far as requiring additional information. We've provided the typical information that's required of staff in order to come to this point. We'd be happy, if there's additional information that you'd like us to bring back, we'd be happy to provide that. It's just, I need a little bit of clarification on what that is.
Well, if I could clarify my comment, I don't know who it's going to come from, but as many people have voiced what they have, And Oatman being there, the years it's been there, somebody, and I don't know who that is, in my opinion, needs to investigate this further and see if this should be done or not. According to all these signatures, it shouldn't be. So I don't blame you, and I know what you're saying. I come to you with an application. You're not going to get all the people bringing in yay and nay before you bring it to us. And the point it happens here that we discuss it, and we've heard some things this morning that to me is disturbing to say I would recommend it.
So, and I appreciate that. I guess my question would be is what additional information would the commission need in order to move on this?
I guess get together and talk and see if they really want to go forward with it.
Just a moment, please. We have a motion on the floor and a second. However, I just want to talk to the commission that our responsibility is to look at the information that has been provided to us, read it, research it to the extent that we can, listen to public testimony, and make a decision on whether this would be a rational, good thing to approve or disapprove. We're not in the business of regulating businesses.
Right.
We're not in the business of making everybody happy. So I would plead for the maker of the motion to either withdraw his motion and make a subsequent motion, or
And I withdraw my second. Mr. President,
just
my concern here is that this project would, in essence, make a new Oatman. And the old Oatman, especially if this one is before the old Oatman, the people are going to stop there. They're not going to stop. They're not going to bother to go any further. And you're going to see Oatman die. It's just going to go away because you'll have a new one. And I've seen this happen before. My quandary is that I don't think that we have the right to tell someone that they can't have a business, but I actually don't think that that's our purview. So I'm thinking that this has to go beyond us into other areas where these things can be taken into consideration.
yes. Commissioner Martin.
My concern is the lack of sanitation and infrastructure as the fire chief made her comments. Those are my concerns.
I believe those would have to be addressed during the development phase of it by the county and their plans, reviewing their plans and assessing whether they're adequate to handle that. And that would be an impediment if they can't. Commissioner Alexander.
Yes, a question. How far is this from Oatman? Is it like blocks, miles? What do we? 1 mile? Less than a mile? Okay. I was an Oatman resident. I was an Oatman business owner back in the early 80s. So I have a little bit of a feel for Oatman and Oatman's business people. And like it's been said, we don't really have a purview to say someone can have a business or they can't have a business. And I understand the business owner's concerns, but I also understand that this could be a huge benefit to Oatman, just an extension of Oatman, not him grabbing all of the business. But I did hear him say he wanted to work with Oatman. And if the business owners were open to working with a business less than a mile away from them, I would think it would be the same thing as working next to the business next to you. And if he's going to provide more services, it provides more competition. It makes people improve their business, whatever it takes. I personally don't see any place where this would be a detriment to the Oatman business owners if, or unless, they choose not to work with the gentleman. I mean, it's such a short distance. And if he's going to shuttle or provide shuttle, that would be a benefit to your business. It would be maybe less parking in Oatman. Maybe you'd have room for more business. I mean, I just think that it's something that everybody could work together with.
Thank you. Is there any other? Mr. Kelly?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, can we pull up the map on page 10? So, the Planning and Zoning Commission is commissioned to act on rezoning requests. If you look at the map on page 10, there's at least 3 different zonings in that area right there. So we're not here to decide whether a business should be there or not. Our whole thing is to act on rezoning requests. And the staff puts together, after an investigation, recommendations, and typically with those recommendations are attached certain things that an applicant will have to satisfy. So if we approve or disapprove something, if we approve it, that still doesn't mean that that's happening. What it means is we've okayed it to move forward to the next stage, which the next stage is whatever recommendations the staff has made, they have to satisfy those before it can go forward. Which, in this case, one of them is to combine all these parcels. I see probably 20 parcels in there, or close to it. So this isn't a carte blanche, just let somebody start forward, and like the chairman said, we're not here to approve or disapprove of a business, and we are sensitive to residents and how they feel about certain things. But at the end of the day, we would be doing less than what we were commissioned for if we act on anything but a rezoning request. So I only say this to inform the public that regardless of how we feel personally, whether and I'm a lover of Oatman, I live in Bullhead City, we have to do what's best for the county, we have to do what's best for the land use ordinance, which governs the sensibility of how parcels are zoned. Now, like I said, there's 3 different zones just in this small area. So a rezone is not out of the question. It falls right in line with the land use ordinance. It's not some maverick zoning. So once we approve or disapprove, if it's approved, then the applicant has to satisfy whatever recommendations the staff put on them. So that's really all that's being put forward here. That's where we need to focus our energy this morning and stay there. If you have more concerns, I encourage you to attend the Board of Supervisors meeting, which comes on the Monday before our meeting. Take your pitch to the Board of Supervisors and make your plea to them, because they have a more open forum and they're more willing to listen to your personal pleas, while we here are restricted to the land use ordinance. That's it. We can't act on your pleas for business rights or anything. It's just rezoning. That's all we do. We aren't commissioned to do anything else.
That's true.
Thank you. Commissioner Kelly?
Mr. Chairman, if I could say something. I know I've already talked about this, but there's another big item here that hasn't even brought up. To increase the size of Oatman, how do you do it with the infrastructure that's there today? A year ago, I was driving my F-250 over there, and I got as close as I could get to the edge, and the oncoming guy got as pretty close, he was close, and we hit mirrors. Now, we start talking, so I think when these things come before us and it's being recommended, I would agree with what Mr. Kelly says, I would agree with everything pretty much Mrs. Alexander says, but to prove rezoning to do something like this, I can't be for it. There's just too many things that need to be clarified.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? May I have a motion?
I make a motion to decline the recommendation.
We have a motion to deny Dies for lack of a second.
I didn't get very far.
I have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
I'll second.
We have a motion by, excuse me, Commissioner Walker and a second by Commissioner Meal to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Item number 2.
Item number 2 is an evaluation of amendment to the Mojave County zoning ordinance, section 37A, special uses, to allow updates to be made to the special uses ordinance. As requested by the Board of Supervisors, staff has reviewed and amended section 37A, special uses, in regards to temporary events. Changes are being proposed to help eliminate vagueness and to allow for an administrative process for smaller events. As recommended by the county attorney, staff has removed temporary from this section and replaced it with reoccurring less than 6 months. Staff has also defined large assemblages of people to 50 or more persons expected in attendance. We are also proposing a new special events ordinance that would handle events that are not reoccurring or permanent. And that is being proposed at the next item. So essentially, this item is just is clarifying what reoccurring or temporary is. We clarified it to be reoccurring less than 6 months. We also put a limit at 50 persons if somebody is holding an event. Doesn't matter if it's permanent or reoccurring. If it's less than 50 persons, we're not going to require a special use permit in this section. And as well as for the next ordinance, we're not going to require a special events permit as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have on this amendment.
Thank you. I believe we had a request by Public Works to...
That would be on the next,
I'm sorry.
The next item.
That was 2. Any questions from
Sounds like
Commission? I don't know, just one question. I thought 50 sounded kind of small. I was at a funeral the other day with about 75 people, and it looked very small. No, I know it doesn't apply to that instance, but...
Yeah, and to clarify, Commissioner, or Mr. Chairman, in the next ordinance, we did put in a caveat that if the facility or use of the property is designed for the intended event, so like a funeral or like a reception at a hotel that already has parking that's accommodating for 200 or over 50 people, then that's not considered a special event, because the facility or the park or the church or whatever it is already accommodated for that event. We picked 50 just because, and it's expected in attendance, so it's not just that there's 50 at one time, but maybe 50 overall, so that the traffic that could be coming to a site that would not be normal to the activity on the business or the personal property is affected, and the surrounding property owners could also be affected.
Thank you, Scott.
I have a question for staff.
Mr. Commissioner Meal.
With the number, did the idea ever occur for what the fire department says, that the maximum amount of people that could be in a building or structure or an area?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Mill, so this portion of the ordinance is for special use permits, and so if there is an event that's reoccurring or that is permanent, then they're required to get a special use permit, and they would have to go through essentially our site plan process, which would involve the fire department, it would involve Public Works, it would involve the commission and the Board of Supervisors in the decision making. So it's something that's going to be happening at a regular basis or is permanent. For example, we just approved, I think it was last month or the month before, a rodeo or 4-H event center out almost in the middle of nowhere. And so that was a special use that they went through because it's something that's going to be reoccurring or permanent at that location. They are then going to have to come to us and get a site plan to make sure that they can accommodate for parking, that they meet all the fire department's requirements, sanitation, all those requirements. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by, excuse me, terrible. Commissioner Abbott, second by Commissioner Kelly to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is an evaluation of an amendment to the Mojave County zoning ordinance to include Section 37Z, special events, in order to provide regulations for temporary special events. At the request of the county attorney, staff has created this amendment to address special events that are not reoccurring or permanent in Mojave County. The purpose of this proposed ordinance is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of visitors, event participants, and the general public, as well as prescribing a uniform permitting process for special events. The proposed regulations provide that the planning and operation of special events for the benefit of enhancing event patron and participant experience, while minimizing adverse impacts to non-patrons, including area residents and businesses, emergency service providers, and the traveling public. Currently, Development Services Policy does not differentiate between small and large events and requires that all events receive approval from the Board of Supervisors. It also does not have a set fee or a way to enforce noncompliance. The proposed ordinance allows for a special event to be permitted administratively for events expecting less than 200 persons in attendance. For events expecting 200 or more persons in attendance, Board of Supervisor approval is required. For events that expect less than 50 persons in attendance, no permit is required. The proposed ordinance also allows the county to shut down or seek preliminary injunction for any event that does not meet the proposed regulations. The special event permit requires a fee of $250 for each application. We met with the county attorney just before this meeting, and he had some recommendations. He had recommended a change to Z2C of this ordinance, which it's the requirement that an applicant come to to staff 15 days prior to an event less than 200 persons, and more than 200 persons 30 days before the event. He's recommending that we change that 30 days to 45 days. Because it has to go to the Board of Supervisors, there's time frames that we would need to meet, and felt that the 45 days would be a much better option. And so we agree that that should be changed as well to 45 days. Just to kind of give you an overview, previously we just handled special events with a policy, and a lot of what was in that policy is now in this ordinance. And what this does today is it helps codify set regulations for special events. We wanted to make the process a little simpler. Before, any type of event would have to go all the way to the Board of Supervisors for approval. This allows us to not require any action if it's less than the 50 persons, but above 50 persons to 200, we could approve an event administratively if they meet all our requirements set forth in this ordinance. And then anything that is larger than those 200 persons, then it would still need to go to the Board of Supervisors, but we now have set requirements and the ability to enforce these regulations as well, where previously it was a little more difficult to go out and stop an event if if something was occurring. But now we will have codified regulations and the authority to stop the event. I'll be happy, Public Works, like the chairman mentioned, would like to also speak on this item, but I would also like to answer any questions that you may have on the ordinance as well.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for staff. Every year at the Wallapai Mountain, there's a picnic put on there by a number of churches in this area. Does that affect how many people are there? Or that is a special event. Does that affect what we've got in here? Does that affect that in any way?
Right now, they should be coming and getting a permit through our department if they have not. This would more than likely make it easier to get that permit when they do.
I have not been involved with getting a permit or not. I don't know if they do now or not.
And maybe they don't need it because the Wallapai, and it's something that we would look at on a case-by-case basis, because Wallapai Mountain Park can already accommodate for those type of activities. It might not require the event because that's what it's set up for. They have a parking lot. It's zoned for these type of activities, and they have the amenities to facilitate such activity as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Would somebody from Public Works like to? Wes?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Les Henley, I'm Engineering Manager with Mojave County Public Works. I don't want to distract from your discussion of development services and their changes to their special use permit process, but I would like to take just a moment to note for the record Public Works' tangential interest in the process. Public Works is charged with managing activities in the right-of-way for the safety of the public. And that includes special event permits for events that take place in the right-of-way. These tend primarily to be things like parades and races, but there is a connection because as special uses under this ordinance begin to impact the right-of-way either with parking or with heavy traffic volumes, there may be an event that requires permits from both departments. And I just wanted to note for the record that events impacting the right-of-way do also trigger the Public Works special event process, and make sure that that didn't get lost in this discussion. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Les. At this point in time, we have a recommendation from staff to amend the time frame from 30 to 45 for a large event application process. Can I get a motion on this topic?
I'll make a motion to approve it with the 45-day timeframe.
Application timeframe.
Application timeframe.
Do I have a second?
The motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Walker and a second by Commissioner Alexander. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Monthly reports.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the staff does not have any monthly reports this month.
Commissioner comments. I believe you had a comment, Mr. Walker.
Yeah, I had a complaint about the information on a zoning notice. They didn't feel we had enough information on there. And I kind of took a look at it because I'd never really paid too much attention. I see them, I've never really stopped and read the whole thing. And this one didn't have a contact information or a number. I don't know if anyone else has had complaints on it or if there's any more we can add to the zoning notices when the staff goes and puts them out, on maybe who to call if they have any more questions.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Walker, are you speaking to the sign that we post on the property?
Property, yeah.
Okay. I think that is doable. We could put some type of information.
Maybe who's contact, who's handling the case, and a number.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one just kind of had, this is what's going on, show up at this address by yourself, or you can send an agent or an attorney, you know, and maybe we should put who's handling the case and maybe a phone number.
When we send out notices to the surrounding property owners within 300 feet of the subject property, we do place in the envelope contact information for the planner that is handling the item, as well as their email and phone number. So, but that is something that we can probably do as well on our signs that we post as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly.
I would like to ask the staff and Taylor, in our call to the public arena, is there a vehicle by which we can limit what someone is speaking about to zoning issues and not character assassination continually? I mean, it's getting a little bit, not only is it redundant, but it's, to me, has crossed the line now and is offensive.
Commissioner Kelly, there's the call to the public, you know, has been a sort of a controversial subject with respect to the commission for historically. At one point, the commission didn't even have a call to the public because it felt that its purview was just land use and stuff like that, and it didn't want to go off into, you know, into things that aren't related to that. The Board of Supervisors changed and adopted, and I don't know if they directed the commission to adopt a call to the public, but there was a change in sentiment then to open up these forums and allow people to come in and talk.
Just randomly?
Well, I think the chairman, you know, in order to maintain order and stuff, you know, would have some, you know, right to control, you know, the length and subjects of discussion. But, you know, it would be very difficult to have an open call to the public and yet, you know, without some sort of guidelines as to, you know, maybe a, you know, an amendment to the bylaws or something like that that would clarify that the call to the public will be related to land use issues or issues within the, you know, the function of the
I think for
commission.
the purposes of this commission, that would be beneficial. This other stuff is extraneous and has no business other than pissing me off. Excuse my language.
So I think if you wanted to do that, then it probably should be addressed in the bylaws, just to make it clear to the public that, you know, you are open to hear their ideas and stuff, but you, as a body, you are only authorized to make decisions with respect to land use.
And I apologize for my language.
Any other comments? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. 11 more to go.